Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about object instantiation. We're going to review this a little bit because in the last unit, the last video, we went over this quite a bit, but we need to bring it back in because it's really important. In terms of the computer science fun factor, the fun level, at the top of the chart in terms of fun is backslashes. 2 backslashes get you 1, 10 get you 5. Doesn't get much better than that, but not too far below that on the chart of fun for computer science is object instantiation. So hang on, here we go. So in this example, I'm instantiating 2 objects. I'm instantiating a scanner and I'm instantiating an A+ bug. Notice on both instantiations the reserved word new must be present. That's what tells Java that I want to make a new object. Notice that scanner has a parameter. It has an actual parameter system in. Notice that A+ bug does not have any parameters. So here's an expanded example. We have dude, which is a reference pointing at a new A+ bug. Notice you got, once again, you have to have that new word, that new reserved word in there for this to happen the way it's supposed to. And then here I've got a scanner reference pointing at a new scanner with system in, and I got a dude reference pointing at a new A+ bug. Here we have the picture that we had before. Dude is not an A+ bug, but dude knows where one is. So if I went to dude and said, hey, what do you know? What do you got? Dude's going to say, hey, I've got OX234. I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to get the OX234 from dude. I'm going to go there, and in that particular spot, I would find an A+ bug. So once again, dude is not an A+ bug, but dude knows where one is. He's referring to an A+ bug. What we're going to be adding in here that we didn't have in the prior unit when we were looking at classes and methods is the idea of an instance variable. An instance variable is a variable that you define at the top of your class, and all the methods inside the class have access to those instance variables. So that's important. It enables you to share some data, and you can do a few more things that you couldn't do with just methods alone. Here we have class chicken. Inside class chicken, we have 2 instance variables. We have size, which is an integer, and we have fly, which is a Boolean. So size can be any kind of whole number. It's got a range that we talked about before, but that's not really important at this point. And then Boolean can be true or false. Obviously, the Boolean fly instance variable is going to keep track of something about flying, whether it's flying, whether it's not flying, whether it can fly. We're not really worried about that. Just know that it's true or false, and it's got something to do with flying. Anytime you instantiate an object, you have to use new and you have to use the class name. When you use the class name, that's where you're bringing in the parameters. And the parameters typically that you're passing in have to do something with your instance variables. So in the prior slide, we had a chicken defined, and inside the chicken it had size and fly. Here we have new chicken with 9 and true. The 9 is information for the size instance variable, and then the true is for the fly, and the same thing with the 33 and the false. So here is a constructor. A constructor goes inside the class and it has parameters, and typically those parameters are receiving information that needs to be assigned over to the instance variables. So here we have formal parameters S and C. S is an integer and C is a Boolean. Notice that we're assigning those over to our instance variables size and fly. The instance variables go on the left of the assignment and then the parameters go on the right. And typically the instance variables match up with the parameters that are being passed in. And so once again, they have parameters, and that enables us to pass in information that we want to assign to the instance variables. So here I've got bird at the bottom. I'm creating a new chicken object that bird is referring to, and then I'm passing in 5 and false. The 5 goes to S and the false goes to C, and then I take those values and copy them over to the instance variables. And that enables any of the other methods that I have anywhere in the class to access that information and do some kind of manipulation with it. So anyway, constructors always have to have the same name as the class. Anytime you say chicken Bob equals new chicken, the new chicken is calling and accessing the constructor from that class, because the class reference type is going to be the same thing as the constructor. Those two have to match up. So let's go out. Let's take a look at chicken and chicken runner to make sure that we totally understand how this works. Here we have the code from the slides. We've got chicken and chicken runner. Notice in the chicken class, you can now see the whole thing at one time, right? So you see the instance variables, size and fly, and then you see the constructor, which takes in S and F, and then the values from S and F are copied over to the instance variables. And now I've added in a method just for demo purposes. It's called print. The job of print is to print out the instance variable so that we can see what it is that we have passed into the constructor. So if we go over to chicken runner, You notice that I have created the reference big. Big is pointing at a new chicken. I've passed in 17 in true, and then I print it out. When I run this, I'm going to get 17 in true, because whenever I go over and look at the chicken class, the 17 was passed into S, and the true was passed into F. And whenever I assign them over via the code inside the constructor and then I hit print, it's going to print out whatever values it has stored for size and fly. So let's go back over to the runner. In the runner, we only have one chicken called big that's created. So let's copy this, and where it says we're going to make another chicken, we're going to paste it. Now, if I try to run this right now, let's go ahead and try that. It's not going to be real happy. It's not going to be real happy because I've named both of my references big. That's a problem. So we need to name, we're going to name this first one little, like chicken little. And so if I was to go and run it right now, it's going to be happy, but the output's going to be wrong. And the output's going to be wrong because on the first example, I've got big equals new chicken, big dot print. On the second one, I've got little equals new chicken, but I'm still telling big to print. So it's not a syntactical problem, it's just a logic problem. So now if I match it up the way it's supposed to be, I'm still going to get 17 in true because I didn't change the values that I'm passing into the constructor. So let's do 99 and let's do false. So what you need to be aware of here is I've made two chickens. Each chicken has its own set of information, right? So each time I make a new chicken, that new chicken gets its own size and fly instance variables, it gets its own constructor, it gets its own print. And because of that, that's how it can handle the different values and process the different values. So little is pointing at a chicken that houses 99 and false. Big is pointing at a chicken that stores 17 and true. And so I can make as many of these as I want. The main thing to understand is that I have to have new in order to instantiate the object. I need a reference in order for me to use it, effectively. And then I have to be able to call the methods, the right way. So let's make one more of these just to make sure we totally get it. Because we can sit here and do this all day, just like backslashes. This is fun stuff. It doesn't get much better than this. So just for purposes to speed it up, we're going to call this one little 4, just because I don't want to have to retype all that a million times. And then we run it again. Let's go in here and let's change this up. Let's make this negative 999. We'll leave that as false. We'll run it again. Now I've got 3 distinct objects that have their own methods and instance variables, and so you kind of get the general idea. Over here, the chicken class is just a template. It's a blueprint. And we create new objects using that blueprint, which kind of tells those objects exactly what kind of structure they have and how that information is stored.